Welcome. Today we're going to talk about Duke Fuqua at the level where strong applicants either succeed or fail. Most of you are not really confused about why you're applying to business school. You are checking the boxes: strong GPA, strong test scores, strong work experience, leadership potential. What you're confused or may be confused about, and what Fuqua applicants often miss, is why those individuals with strong credentials still fail in the process of their application. So Fuqua, given today's topic, is not really looking for only a strong resume. Fuqua is looking for leaders of consequence. That's a phrase they use deliberately, and it's one that requires decoding, which we will do today. So over the next 30 minutes, we're going to cut through a lot of the noise, and we'll talk about what Fuqua actually evaluates, why the 25 random things isn't actually random, and why your goals, interview delivery, essays, need to go beyond ambition to demonstrate emotional intelligence, humility, and long-term clarity. I'll also walk you through some of the cases of clients that we've worked with, from human capital professional, physical therapy, real estate analysts, so you can see how we helped reposition their strong and differentiated application, but oftentimes from coming with not so obvious profiles. And we help them convert into winning admits, some of them with scholarship as well. So let's get started. At Fuqua, the average GMAT, and we're talking here classic score, is about 710. They do give you a range. They don't give you the averages when you look at the class profile. The GPA range is also competitive. Most applicants have already worked at global firms or in leadership positions. So the problem isn't always, are they strong candidates? The problem is that that you, as applicants applying to Fuqua, are competing against an oversupply of strong candidates. High achievers are not necessarily differentiated when there are just so many applicants that are strong candidates. Fuqua admission model is less about technical filtering and more about risk balancing. They admit people who will evaluate the class and sustain Fuqua's reputation long-term, even after graduation. So just like you shouldn't be thinking about your MBA program as the next 2 years alone only in the university, you should be thinking about your university's long-term ROI for years to come, so long as you choose to have a professional career. These are individuals and resources you should be leveraging. The same thing the admission team is looking at candidates like yourself for that long-term representation of that institution, and in this case, Fuqua. So when you hear Fuqua emphasize community, collaboration, or team Fuqua, which if you've done any conversation, if you've had any conversation with anyone at Fuqua, you will hear that word mentioned very often. It's not really just a slogan. It's shorthand for, are you someone we can trust to both succeed yourself, but also make others succeed? That's why over-indexing on your stats alone, or focusing too much on polishing your resume, or endless essay drafts, if they're not really getting to the core of who you are, it doesn't really solve the problem of you getting in, or doesn't help you get in. You require narrative cohesion across multiple things in your application, and emotional intelligence. Without those, you risk sounding like a robot. And reality is that Fuqua does admit people, leaders with consequence. So let's define the admission lens. Fuqua Admissions Committee is assessing three things. One, leadership of consequence, which means impact beyond personal success. Do you work in helping others become better, leave the environment that you are in better than you found it? Do you influence change, not just execute tasks? So you're not a taskmaster, you're just, you are someone who is really influencing change because you are fully invested in the environment that you're in. Two, authenticity and self-awareness. They are trained to detect over-engineered stories. They will reject applicants that feel rehearsed or AI generated. What matters is whether you understand your strengths and your blind spots, and whether you are comfortable enough to be candid. And three, community contribution. Fuqua is absolutely explicit. Community matters a lot, and they want a class that succeeds together. The question in the room is always, will you show up as a multiplier, helping others grow alongside you, or someone who is leveraging everything, taking, and never giving anything back? When you look at your essays and your recommendations and your application as a whole, the thread must be really clear. This person is ambitious, yes, but also collaborative, resilient, trustworthy. And that's someone that Fuqua wants in that community, because you are going to help multiply the success, your success, and help others along the way. So let's dive into the essays. I know you guys are working through them if you haven't finished them already. So Fuqua's first essay is deceptively short, 100 words on your MBA, on your post-MBA career goals. They ask both your first choice career plan as well as your alternate plan. But here's the trap that most applicants, I see so often in applicants writing. They essentially write the goals as a placeholder. They drop in consulting or tech product management with no specificity, no necessarily logic, no connection to their past trajectory, other than I want to pivot. It reads like a half-formed idea or an exploration at best. But the admission committee is evaluating your clarity. In 100 words, they want to see evidence that you know exactly where you're headed. Your role, the function that you're going to hold, the industry, the geography, and that your backup plan isn't random, but strategically adjacent to your first choice. So for example, if your first choice is healthcare consulting, your alternate plan should be healthcare corporate strategy, something that leverages the same skill set and network that you're building along the way in your Fuqua experience, and not in a completely different lane where you have to start all over again, your entire process of being, of development. And then the second layer is feasibility. Does your background support this pivot? Does your trajectory show that the leap, the movement makes sense? Short answer that looks clean but lacks logic is definitely not going to be credible in the application, and it can be one of the reasons why you are rejected from the program. When we work with clients, we help them craft goals that they don't sound, they are impressive, of course, but they are logical. They are sharp, they're ambitious, they're also believable in the context of, is it possible to get to this goal that you want? And that's what Fuqua is looking for in the context of who they want to admit. They don't want to have to help you also figure out what you want to do along the way when you only have 2 years, and really your interview and your recruiting starts immediately sometimes even before you step foot on campus. The 25 random things that is not so random. This is Fuqua's signature test. They actually ask this question even of people that they hire, not just the students that they are admitting to the MBA program. So at first glance, this question looks lighthearted, almost fun. But the mistake that applicants make is to treat it like a social media bio. They list quirk, travel habits, hobbies. Of course, you can include those, but you want to make sure that they are meaningful in the context of who you are and who you want to present yourself to Fuqua. Some other candidates make the mistake of forcing professional achievements that don't belong there. The 25 things sometimes reads more like a developed, quirky side of a resume, but definitely it's not what Fuqua is looking for. Fuqua is actually testing whether you can reveal dimensions, the personal, the professional, and the unexpected in a way that makes you both likable and consequential. If you do this right, this essay humanizes you. It makes the admission reader want you in the class, not just because you're qualified, but because you are a compelling candidate. For example, one client shared how she spent summers helping her immigrant parents run a small business, which taught her resilience and empathy in the context of running an organization itself. Another revealed a passion for mentoring first-generation students, which tied back to their leadership goals of what they were looking to do. What's important to note here is that whatever you choose to include in the 25 random things should be detailed and personal, but also it should be the subtext of your leadership DNA, of your humility and your values that, of course, if you are choosing the school right, it should align with Fuqua's values, DNA, and how they operate. The third essay asks, how will you contribute? They're explicit. They want 3 specific ways. Most applicants misunderstand this. They list generic clubs, copy-paste from the website, and hope that this is going to signal interest. But Fuqua is testing for depth, whether you've done the work to understand their culture and whether you can translate your own experiences into tangible contributions to a community that you know about, but you do not know yet. The admission committee is asking, what will you bring to the Fuqua ecosystem that strengthens it? If you think about leadership of consequence, are you going to make the place better than you left it? This is where you have an opportunity to communicate this. For example, one client worked in labor strategy and they positioned themselves to lead in the Human Capital Club. But what she did is she also talked about, or she connected it to Fuqua's case center to explain how she would leverage the UK labor organization or her experience working with them to expand the programming. That's contribution at a consequential level. Your 3 contributions should cover depth and breadth: academic, professional, and personal. And maybe you'll add value to the consulting club or healthcare club. Maybe you lead in student government or diversity initiatives, or maybe you'll bring personal dimensions, athletics, mentorship, or cultural group engagement. And all of these should show your human side in terms of how you're going to contribute at Fuqua. But the point is, where oftentimes applicants leave this to, or maybe assume that the admission team is going to understand, that they're name dropping to demonstrate awareness, but that's not really what Fuqua is looking for. They want you to show that you understand Fuqua's culture of engagement and that you will be that multiplier who understands exactly how he or she or they are going to contribute. Fuqua wants people who don't just consume what is prepared for them, but consume as well as give back so that they can build others along the way. And this essay is where you can prove that you are not just ambitious, but you are community oriented, you are mission aligned, and you are ready to elevate Team Fuqua just in the same way as others have lifted you, even in the application process, which I know that if you've spoken to anyone at Fuqua, you will feel that even before becoming a student there. Now, let's anchor it on 3 examples in the context of how we helped candidates get to Fuqua. We worked with a human capital candidate, pre-MBA. She worked in private equity, focused on talent strategy. She had strong academic record, but her GRE was 312, which is relatively low in the context of, top 20 business schools. We reframed her story around multidimensional experiences, including her work with a local labor organization in the UK that balanced her professional rigor and social engagement, enabled her to really show that she belongs at Fuqua. She got in. Not only did she get in, she also got $100,000 in scholarship as an offer, as part of the offer of admission. Second, we worked with a physical therapist. This was a non-traditional candidate and older than the average class. They had a 3.45 GPA from a non-branded school, 700 GMAT Classic score, and he wanted to stay within healthcare, but wanted to pivot into a more leadership role. The challenge here was really translating how you communicate physical therapy experience into business leadership. We helped him reposition his experiences into business language, and we spoke about his decision making, his team management, the patient impact, and how he approached working with patients. And he was admitted to the healthcare program at Fuqua. A third example, and we have more, but we just selected these 3. We worked with a real estate analyst. He had a 3-year gap in his resume. It was a health gap that could be definitely perceived as a red flag in the context of business school applications. We reframed his gap as resilience and chance to demonstrate how adversity deepened his empathy and focus, and how that experience, that health experience, would be instrumental in how he can contribute to the Fuqua community. He was also admitted with a $30,000 scholarship. The point here is that we helped applicants reframe their candidacy to show the consequences of their work, their actions, how they were purpose-focused candidates. It demonstrates their resilience in their own unique ways, and it demonstrates community alignment, that they were individuals who really cared about community. And that's really what Fuqua rewards. That's what they want. Those are the kinds of individuals that they're looking for. Now, we didn't make these candidates be who they're not. We really dive deeper into understanding who they were, what brought them to be interested in Fuqua, what experiences they can communicate and share that made them compelling and strong candidates for Fuqua at a school where the stats clearly evidenced by these examples are not the final decision maker in the admission process. So essentially, what we do here at CA Admissions is we dive deeper. Our framework is very clear. We have high placement rates of 90+%. And the way we frame our work with clients is that we first clarify the trajectory. That means you don't submit vague goals. Goals are actually the cornerstone of our work with a candidate. You would submit a roadmap that makes sense to the admission and to future employers as well. Now, if you choose to change that goal along the way because you've been exposed to things that you didn't know were possible, that is a whole entire different situation. But the reality is, if you know how to write a goal and you know how to frame a goal and you know how to plan for a goal once, and even if you change that trajectory, you know how to do it again, because it's the same process. It's just with a different ambition, with a different target. 2, we help you elevate your narrative beyond stats. Not everyone is going to have perfect scores. Everyone has blemishes in their profile. No matter what you see online, the reality is that no one's profile is perfect. And we help candidates build stories that reveal leadership DNA, emotional intelligence, and value alignment that goes beyond the superficial, high-level details that we often see. And 3, we align your candidacy with, in this case, Fuqua's ethos of leadership of consequence. And that's why we move applicants from, qualified on paper to admitted to the schools that they are interested in attending. We don't operate with templates and surface level coaching. We are a admission coaching firm that is very rigorous in the context of how we operate, but also what our expectations of our clients are, because we know how transformational this work is and how, if done right, how many doors you can open as a result of this. And that's why it works in the context of getting candidates into their dream schools. So if you're targeting Fuqua, and are considering working with us, the most effective path is the comprehensive coaching. This is full strategy, beginning to end, full execution, everything from positioning to goals to final interview prep to even preparing you for your business school experience post-admission. That's where we partner deeply in guiding you through the entire process step by step. And so if you want that, so you can definitely reach out for a consultation to discuss how we can work best together. So if you want access to me, but not full one-on-one coaching, we also have the MBA Strategy Circle, where I am in a private room with a private community every other week, where I answer your questions, get you to have the strategic alignment in the context of what you need to do. We calibrate your direction of where you're moving in real time, obviously, so long as you bring your questions to the conversation. You will have access to replays of those conversations. So if you miss a session, you can see what other people's questions were. And it's a really an amazing space to come in and ask along the way, that it's specific to you and not just generic online advice that you will find. And for very specific needs, we also offer hourly service. Those are available with limitations. And the key point is, of course, our primary work is with comprehensive coaching clients, because we only work with 12 candidates. Each coach here at CA works with 12 candidates per round to make sure that we give you the full attention that your application deserves. But that also means that we don't work with everyone, because we work best with individuals who are ambitious, are serious about the results that they want, and are serious about knowing that the results only come when you put in the effort, and are individuals who are ready to move decisively. So if any of these resonate with you, definitely reach out. If you are in this MBA application process, whether you are applying to Fuqua or other schools, I invite you to follow us on YouTube and LinkedIn. We share insights every single week. We have a live weekly session. We have collaborations with other organizations where we share insights with them in those spaces as well. So if you want to know what's happening in the MBA admission cycle and MBA admission community, definitely follow us on YouTube and LinkedIn. If you want that one-on-one support, reach out. Otherwise, we are going to be moving to questions. We have about 4 minutes left, and I want to make sure that I have a chance to answer your questions specifically. If you have a question about anything that I talked about, or maybe I didn't cover it that you would want to know about, just write it in the chat of whichever platform you're joining us from. This way, I can answer it. Know that we won't share the question on the screen, so when this becomes available for replay, it won't. Your name won't show up there. So I'll just read it and then answer the question. In the meantime, we'll go through 2 questions that have come through the registration, so that we can keep the conversation moving for the next 3 minutes. All right, so I am a reapplicant. How should I show progress to show Fuqua that I have improved since my last application? This is an excellent question. As a reapplicant, it's always challenging to demonstrate that you are a stronger candidate today than you were a year, 2 years, however long it was than you applied last time. In the context of Fuqua, what's great about Fuqua is that they actually do offer a session with an admission representative, and you have an opportunity to go and ask them where are some areas that you can strengthen your profile. So just really important to note that you should never ask them, why was I rejected? They won't give you a straight answer, and it's not really that professional to ask that kind of question. But instead, ask, where can I improve my profile, given that they have access to your previous profile that you submitted? What can you improve before you reapply? And they are really candid in those conversations. So make sure that you take what they give you and apply it directly to your application. So if they tell you, well, your academics are an area where you can strengthen, that means retake the test. That means take a class like Harvard Business School's core certificate program, or Berkeley Haas's or Berkeley's Extension School Math for Management. Both of those are rigorous, respected by business schools, and you have to pass a test with a certain grade in order to receive the certificate. And that's different from like an Coursera or edX or one of those courses that it's not as valuable as something like Harvard Business School's core, for example. So they tell you those things, that's what you have to do, you have to do it. Otherwise, you're going to submit an application with the same problem as you had last time. You haven't improved it, therefore you haven't really improved your candidacy. And if they tell you, oh, you should spend a little bit more time with your leadership experience, that means then go and look at your professional experiences and exposures. What do you need to do to strengthen those opportunities? Speak to your boss, look at the extracurricular activities. Is there an opportunity for you to demonstrate more leadership? So essentially, whatever they told you to strengthen is what you should strengthen. And now in the context of your application and reapplication, because there's a reapplicant essay, you want to highlight those changes. Sometimes your goals were a major problem last time around. Showing that you've reflected, that you've learned, that you've dived deeper into what opportunities look like in the real world is great space to actually demonstrate growth and maturity. You shouldn't be so fixated on one goal because you wrote it 2 years ago, 1 year ago. That thinking that you can't change that. That's actually erroneous thinking. You can change your goals. You just have to be strategic in the way you present that change, how it happens, right? So hopefully that's helpful for those of you applying, but also for those of you as reapplicants, but also for those applicants who are applying, recognizing that you don't want to have to reapply. You want to make sure that you answer all these pieces from the get-go. Excellent. All right, we're out of time, but join us next week. We're going to be talking about Darden's MBA program. So if you're considering Darden, I highly suggest you register. Write your question in advance in your registration, in the registration form, essentially, because we will have an opportunity to answer your question, whether through the process of the presentation or in the Q&A as well. Thank you, and hopefully you are having a wonderful round one close for those of you who are targeting round one, and a amazing start to your round two applications if you are considering round two. If you are considering round two, you should be in the process of writing applications at this point, just as a reminder. I will see you next week. Thank you so much for watching, and share it with your friends who are also considering applying to business school.